My first DIY is this little basket. I got this at a Salvation Army and I paid 99 cents for it. It was made in China. It's got some stains on it, but I am going to do something kind of fun and make this look like a fabric basket. So I'm taking this, I have all this scrap fabric. I'm cutting a small slit on the edge of it, about a 1 inch piece, and then I'm just pulling it and tearing the fabric. This is way easier than spending all that time and cutting every single piece individually. I'm picking fabrics and colors that kind of coordinate with each other.
Okay, so you're going to take two pieces, hold them together like this, fold it in half, like that, just so your holes are matching. You're going to cut a slit. Make sure you're not too close to the edge or the sides when you cut your slit. Then you're going to take, I like to take the shorter piece and push it through the hole in the first piece, and then with the shorter piece you're going to take the end and push it through the hole that you have in it, and then pull. Again, hold them up to each other like so, fold it in half, take your scissors, cut your slit, take your shorter piece, push it through the hole in the first longer piece, then bring your fabric on your shorter piece through that hole and pull it tight. And then just keep going until you have 3 pieces about the same length. Take them, fold them in half, cut your slit. Longer piece, take your shorter piece and put it through the hole of your longer piece. I just like to use the shorter piece to put it through the longer piece, so I'm not having to pull that gigantic long piece of fabric through the hole, if that makes sense. And I like to alternate colors as well. Fold it in half, like so. Cut my slits. Here's my holes. Take my shorter piece, put it through the longer piece. Then I'm going to bring the shorter piece through the hole that I cut in it. Then pull it tight.
I have 3 pieces now and they're about 3 feet long each. I am going to start braiding these. So I'm taking the ends and I'm tying a knot. And then I'm going to have my daughter help me and hold it so I can start braiding. Or you can take the pieces of fabric and step on them at the knot at the end and then just kind of braid them upward. And I'll show you that here in a second. When I get to the end of the braid and I run out of fabric, I'm going to continue doing the folding the pieces of fabric in half, cutting the slit, and putting the shorter piece through the longer piece. This makes it a lot easier to braid. You're not trying to braid really super long pieces of fabric. It can tangle up at the end and it kind of gets a little bit frustrating. So I don't like to have to braid my pieces when they're super long. So I keep them kind of around 2 feet long to 3 feet long. And then this is where I put that braid underneath my foot and I'm just going to continue braiding it, and I'm holding it tight with my foot and pulling upward. Then with my hot glue gun, I am going to secure one end to the bottom part of the basket. And I'm just going to wrap the whole piece of braided fabric around until I get to the end. And I'm making sure I keep it really close and really tight. I don't really want to see any of the basket in between the fabric. So I'm trying to keep it tight as best as I can. I wasn't really surprised when I got to the end and I had like the perfect amount of braided fabric. I did do a dry run on this before I started gluing everything down in the first place. So I knew that I had enough braided fabric, and then when I got to the end, I just secured it and glued it down with my hot glue gun. I didn't cut or trim off any of that excess fabric. I kind of liked it that way, so I did just leave it, and I just pulled off any of the little pieces of strings that might be hanging off. And then here it is, you guys. I have my own little fabric basket now. You'll have to let me know what you think. Next up is DIY project number 2. This is just a glass juice container. I buy these juices from DIYS, and the kids really love them. They're really healthy. They're like vegetable juices. And I just love the shape of the container, so I saved them to craft with them. I'm taking some spray paint and I'm just putting down a primer coat or a base coat. And then I have this paint that I had mixed up previously for a faux terracotta side table I previously did in the past. So I will link that video down below so you can see how I made this paint. I did about 2 to 2.5 coats to get full coverage. And then once the paint was dry, I'm going to use some of these molds and some air dry clay, and I'm going to add a little trim piece to the top and to the bottom. I'm using some E6000 glue to secure everything. It's always good to use a little bit of painter's tape if you have it to kind of hold it in place so it doesn't slide down while it's drying. But I am plumb out of painter's tape, so I was not able to use that today. I then waited a full 24 hours and then I took my faux terracotta paint and I painted the air dry clay molds. I'm going to be using these Redesign by Prima stamps called Alpha, and these have never been used before, so you do need to prep your stamps before you use them. So once I pull them off, I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and I'm just going to lightly sand the stamping surface just to give it a little bit of, I guess, grit for when you stamp and it's not sliding around all over the place. I applied my letters to the plastic grid sheet that comes with the Redesign Prima stamps, and they stick pretty good. I did have a little bit of issue with my G kept falling off, so I had to do a little bit of restamping there. Now my camera is flipping everything, but I did apply these mirror image so that way they would be the correct way when I stamped onto these vases. With permanent inks, you need to heat set them. So I'm just using my blow dryer. I'm going to dirty everything up with some brown antiquing wax. This is from Waverly. I started off with using just a damp paper towel and wiping and dabbing the wax on. And then later I switched to using a sea sponge, which I think I liked using the sea sponge better. I also did some dry brushing to highlight a lot of the details in the molds. Here I'm applying the wax with a sponge and just kind of dabbing it on, and then I take a damp paper towel and wipe and dab all of that excess wax off. Off camera, I did use a spray sealer. I used spray lacquer and a satin finish, and then I styled them with some greenery and some faux flowers. I think they're cute, and it's a great way to save a unique shaped bottle or jar or whatever it is you are just sad to throw away. I think these would look great in a booth, but you'll have to let me know what you think. DIY project number 3 is kind of a simple and an easy one. This is a frame that I purchased at Goodwill. I think I paid like $2 for it or something like that. Firstly, I need to take it apart and clean it because it's really dirty and just gunky. So I'm just using a paper towel and some Windex and cleaning all of that. And then I'm going to spray it down with some water and take a piece of sandpaper and just scuff up that surface and prep it for some paint. I gave the front and the back a coat of this really pretty gold colored spray paint. I want to make the image that I'm going to put in there pop. So I'm reusing that piece of cardboard that came with the frame, and I'm just using a white colored chalk paint in the color called Ivory and giving that a couple of good coats. On graphicfairy.com, I found this really pretty image of a magnolia and a bumblebee, and I just thought it was perfect. My husband and I are doing classes right now to be beekeepers, so I just loved it. Then I'm gonna trace that piece of paper with out of that cardboard, the backer piece, and this ended up being a fail. It was a little bit too short. I think I would have just not done this step next time I do this and just put the image in there. And now it's time to put everything back together. You can just barely see where the picture that I put in there was just a little bit too short. I wanted to age that gold frame a little bit, so I'm just using a damp paper towel to apply some Waverly brown antiquing wax. And that was the final step of this picture frame. I think it looks great, but you all will have to let me know what you think. DIY project number 4. I know you all have had these before. These are like those chocolate filled wafers. You get them for gifts or whatever. My family, we just buy them. I'm going to flip this today. I'm giving it a coat of spray paint to cover up all of the printed words and just to act as a primer. Then I'm using this Waverly chalk paint in the color called Elephant. And yes, you did hear a question mark in my voice because I couldn't remember what the paint color was called. I did 3 coats on that, and then I'm using this Bohemian Flower stamp from Redesigned by Prima, and I'm adding some stamps all around it. I did also use my blow dryer to heat set all of these stamps before I moved on to my next step. If you don't heat set them, they could run or smear when you're applying your sealer. I needed to give this some age, so I'm adding some more of that brown antiquing wax. I'm using a sea sponge to apply it and then a damp paper towel to wipe it off. I styled it with some faux flowers and it is all finished. I think this would be another great piece in a booth. I think flowers just make everything better. Everything looks so much prettier with flowers or some sort of greenery in them. Don't you think? Last but not least is DIY project number 5. Here is another little basket. It has a handle on it. It does have some damage on the handle, so I'm going to make this little bow that I learned from my friend Heather over at Spindle Mountain Mercantile, and I think she has a friend that she learned it from too. But I think they were really cute, so I wanted to try to make one like this. So I'm cutting various fabric and pieces of ribbon, and I'm just kind of piling them all together, and then I'm going to make like a X sort of pattern with them. And I'm just kind of layering these ribbons on these pieces of fabric and making it all look cute. And then I'm just going to take a piece of string or another small piece of ribbon, actually, I think is what I use. And I'm just going to tie them in the middle, and I get this really foofy, fluffy bow. And I love it. Did you see how easy that was? Oh my goodness. And I love it. Look at it. It's so foofy. And then I'm just going to glue it on here with my hot glue gun. And I'm done with this one. That was the easiest project ever. Give me all the baskets with broken handles, and I'll put a foofy fluffy bow on them any day. I think this would also be a great item in a booth. Probably, I don't know, but you tell me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed everything today. I hope you took some inspiration from the flip. Here is a little recap of all the projects completed today. Comment down below which one is your favorite. Hopefully I have earned your subscription, and hopefully you like this video because it does help me in the YouTube algorithm, and it is free for you to do. So it's a great way to support my channel. Liking, subscribing, and commenting, of course. But yeah, have a great day, everyone. And thanks again. Bye.